Welcome back.
Yeah, I thought I was done with this topic as well, but in looking back over the research I did for my previous video about this, I realized I overlooked not one, but two significant details. I went into making my last video under the assumption that people are aware there is a widely known narrative about the original Lara Croft being considered unrealistically attractive and portrayed in a way that was considered misogynistic or degrading to women, and that was a major factor in why they rewrote the character for 2013. But it seems that assuming everyone knows about that was giving some people, I'm looking at you, Twitter, too much credit. So, if you're confused about this concept, I'm gonna leave some links in the description which will bring you up to speed, or in case you still don't believe me, you can look into it for yourself. This also applies if you're one of the people that thinks said narrative was made up by me in 2022, which I'm sorry to say it wasn't. But if it didn't come from me, then who? That is what we're going to be looking into. Before we get stuck in though, I want to get a couple of things straight. First, my opinion is that both Laras, from a feminist perspective, were handled perfectly well in some ways and not so well in others, but that's not what this video is about. This is not about what I think. It's about the development of the reboot and what the people involved had to say about it and their reasoning behind it. Second, I'm going to be treating Classic Lara and Legend Lara as one, and Reboot Lara as another. I have a reason for this, which you'll see later. Okay, with that out of the way, let's start by going back over the interviews we looked at last time to have a look at the kind of girl power we were promised during 2013's development. First up, you'll want to protect the new, less curvy Lara Croft. Oh yeah, that definitely sounds like they're trying to create a strong, independent hero. When people play Lara, they don't really project themselves into the character. Who's people, I wonder? It sounds to me like he's taking his own experience with not connecting with her and assuming that's how everyone feels. They're more like, I want to protect her. Are they though? Is that what people are like? There's this sort of dynamic of, I'm going on this adventure with her and trying to protect her. So, are we supposed to imagine ourselves as the character, or are we supposed to imagine ourselves next to the character? Because it can't be both. The ability to see her as a human is even more enticing to me than the more sexualized version of yesteryear. So, this guy couldn't bring himself to think of Classic Lara as a human, and again, he's assuming that to be everybody's experience, but watching this younger, more vulnerable version getting the absolute shit beaten out of her is more human to him and therefore more... Do I have to keep going on about use of the word enticing? And then he goes into her being a quote, cornered animal, and her controversial attempted rape scene, which I don't think I need to explain why that's not feminism.
No.
The only other interview I've discussed on this channel before is the one where some weirdo was asked whether or not Shadow of the Tomb Raider would finally see Lara using her iconic double pistols, and his response is to go off on this weird little tangent about revealing clothing. No, I don't want that. For us, this is her defining moment. We're not going to put her in shorts with double pistols, wearing a bikini. That's not what this is. Like, the heck is this guy's problem? Does he have a teenage daughter or something who has just discovered short shorts? Is that why he's so bitter? Anyway, that's ignoring that the first and only Tomb Raider game that's ever put Lara in a bikini was made by this very same company.
No.
Right, next. This is a favorite of mine, although I'm afraid something's gone wrong with the formatting on this website. It's a little off topic, but I found this part really interesting. The first Tomb Raider reboot in 2006 was very successful, both critically and commercially, so at what point did you realize you'd have to reboot the franchise a second time? One of the things we've been very clear in communicating is that we inherited Tomb Raider from core design and we continued the canon. We didn't change anything about it. She had the same parents, she had the same mansion. Basically, we just put the new engine on board, right? So the story continued. I just love this. Completely untrue. Just a load of absolute nonsense. But yeah. That's why I said earlier that I'll be treating the first two versions of Lara as one, because that's what the developers thought. Anyway, back on topic. We felt that by the time you got to Underworld, people were like, I kind of don't know the story of Lara Croft and how she became Lara Croft and who she is. And her parents, do I need to know that story in order to play the game? No. No, you fucking don't. And then it goes on to this comparison I've seen quite a lot about how Batman and James Bond are always being reinvented and rebooted to keep up with modern audiences, so why shouldn't they do the same thing with Lara? It hadn't got that thing where people were like, oh, I remember, I know why she had twin pistols, a blue top and short shorts, but there wasn't anything really iconic. And I think that was because there's never a story told about who her parents were, where the mansion came from, where she got her money. She just came to be. Well, this part is at least kind of true. Nobody came out of the classic games thinking, oh yeah, I understand now why she carries 2 guns. Because that has nothing to do with what's going on in the game. It doesn't matter. There doesn't need to be a story about it. That's where it ends for this bit though, because it's immediately back to straight up fibbing. There wasn't anything iconic? Really? Do you see what I mean about these interviews just talking shit? There's never a story told about who her parents were. False. Where the mansion came from. False. Where she got her money. Fucking false. Did these people not do any looking into the classic games at all when they were doing this? Christ, it's like the Halo TV series. She just came to be. Okay, actually, I take it back. They did do their research. I know they know there was a backstory for classic Lara, in Revelation for example, because they fucking stole it for the plot of Shadow. Most of it, anyway. They left the good parts out, of course, the parts about character growth and stuff. Interesting choice considering how hard they were trying to make a character-driven narrative, but we can't have everything, can we? Next, it discusses her emotional reaction to her first kill. I don't want to seem patronizing or sexist, but is that also a purposefully feminine quality? Because she even felt bad about the deer. Yeah, and that's why, because it's a day one story, it's rebooting a franchise for a 21-year-old girl who's straight out of college.
No.
Right. Let's try something different. Perhaps an interview with a woman will be a bit better. How about this one with Rihanna Pratchett? How do you reboot an iconic character like Lara Croft?
You don't.
Call Leo now.
Taking her back to a time when she feels more vulnerable. Not because she's female, but because she's a human in dire circumstances, in the way any of us would feel if we were shipwrecked on a mysterious island. Well, that's certainly better than nothing. But she should probably have told that to her buddy from earlier, before he went around telling everyone that they did that because vulnerability is hot on a uni-age girl. Still, let's be generous and give Miss Pratchett a point.
Aha.
How about another one with Rihanna Pratchett? Why don't we try Tomb Raider, a chance to make a difference? I've had an up and down relationship with Lara over the years. I played the first game, in fact my dad did, and spoiled the bit with the T-Rex, but it was still awesome. Then I felt she'd become reduced to a pair of boobs, a pair of pistols, and a hair plait.
No.
Okay, one more. Third time's the charm. Lara Croft receives a lot of attention due to her status as one of the pioneers of female characters in games, and how even today, female leads in games are not as prevalent as male leads. So when writing a female character, do you feel there's more pressure to get it right? Very good question. Let's hope she has a very good answer in return. Female characters in games do tend to get scrutinized for how well they are womaning in a way that male characters don't tend to. They're more readily accepted, warts and all. Female characters are expected to represent, and that can be a tall order. Well, that's all very true, absolutely, but it doesn't really say anything about Lara. Among non-gamers, Lara has long had a perception as an over-sexualized character. And admittedly, in her earlier years, the advertising surrounding the Tomb Raider games did skew that way. But even now, with the marketing moving away from that, I've encountered people who assume the new games still promote that male fantasy. Do you feel that that's been an obstacle in rebooting her, or do you have the sense that non-gaming culture has been pretty cognizant of this shift? Classic Lara and new Lara are both great characters. Sure, they've been angled in slightly different ways, but they're both strong, capable, resourceful, and smart. Yes, classic Lara's marketing was very much skewed for the boys, which irritated me as a younger gamer, and I think it did a bit of an injustice to Lara in the games. That's definitely an angle that Crystal's marketing didn't take with new Lara, which I'm very glad about. Lara should be for everyone. For the most part, gamers have been pretty receptive to the new tone and take on her. This is interesting. She actually admits that it was only some of the marketing, not the entire foundations of the game and franchise, that exploited Lara's sex appeal. I don't know about the implication that Lara was at any point not for everyone, but still, we most definitely have a win with this answer.
Aha.
Right, now who's next? She had become somewhat unrelatable. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. Some people can relate to a strong and confident woman. She was obviously fully formed. She was a confident, wisecracking adventurer, and it was something that people weren't necessarily connected to 15 years in. Again, who is people? So we wanted to strip it down, give her a personality. Okay, but you just said she was already fully formed, so which is it? Make her feel more human, grounded, and believable. What's with them always using the word human to describe what classic Lara wasn't? I don't care what the context is, there's nothing feminist at all about a man looking at a woman and saying, that is not a human being. The thing we want to do is make her a more modern version of a young British girl versus somebody that was so, I hate to use the word posh, but in a sphere where she had a butler. She wasn't that relatable. So, Batman has a butler, since they keep wanting to bring him up as an example as to why they did this to Lara, and him and James Bond are both rich. Is anyone saying they would be better characters if they discarded their money and went on some weird, performative, poverty porn bullshit so that ordinary men could relate to them better? No. Also, she's in her 20s, she's not a young girl. Look at some of the actresses that are popular at this point. Someone like Keira Knightley. She's just a very likable English girl, and that's the kind of person that you'd imagine Lara to be like. Hey guys, so, you know that actress with the famous quote about how she doesn't like playing modern women because they always get raped? Yeah, let's base our character on her and have the character almost get raped. Women are going to love this.
No.
Okay, what else have we got? We've moved to a space where we believe that the audience, and I include yourselves there, you want to know where she came from. Getting really sick of them saying this, we already knew where she came from. She already had not one, but two complete backstories, one of which was already written by Crystal Dynamics to begin with. We didn't ask for another one. You want to feel a connection to our character that you've never really felt before. Oh, she's your character, is she? What we're trying to do is create a very unique experience for this audience, and for you, for today. Make you feel like you're now connected to a character that you love in a very unique and different way. Really interesting language in this one so far. All this use of the word you for everything. You wanted this. You asked for this. We did this for you. And then it goes even more into the Batman and James Bond stuff. Again. To have a caricature, somebody who, let's say you put in Lara from Legend, we don't believe you'd be able to get the same emotion from that character because she wouldn't feel as real. You'd feel like it was still the Lara that we knew. And she's beautiful, but we know that she has very long legs, she's very slim, great posture, but it's trying to make you feel that connection.
No.
Alright, I have one more interview to look at, and I think we might finally be getting somewhere with this one. New look for Lara will be more female-friendly. How, exactly? An excellent question. This article is from 2009 and we're still waiting to find out. Pretty clickbaity with this picture though, I think we could probably have done without that. Eidos has announced that they're set to revamp the Lara Croft character, reinventing her as more female-friendly in a cynical attempt at wooing a new audience. Finally, an actual quote. Female-friendly. This looks really promising. Let's click the link to see where that came from. Eidos shares fell 30%, and now the firm could revamp its leading franchise's heroine to revive sales. Could revamp her? The last article said that they were definitely going to, but okay. Likened Croft to evolving pop culture characters as a means to keep her appealing. Potentially, the Times speculates, to make her more appealing to female gamers. Okay, so did this not come from an actual related source? This is somebody at a newspaper just spitballing? The Times speculates? Surely not. There's no link this time, so I had to go looking for where this came from myself. Luckily, it wasn't too hard to find. Lara Croft faces female-friendly makeover after poor sales in US bring profit warning from Eidos. Here we go, we finally found it! Lara Croft is to get a makeover after the digital heroine's waning popularity in the United States forced its publisher to admit that sales would fall about £20 million short of what had been hoped. Eidos is considering revising the look and play of her Tomb Raider adventures, which may see efforts to make her more female-friendly, in an attempt to revive sales of games starring the pneumatic archaeologist. Pneumatic? As in, powered by compressed air? Like, inflated? What the fuck? But the quote, female-friendly, was used in the headline, so surely that can't be it. The person who was actually being interviewed has to have said something along those lines, right? Almost all of the shortfall in sales stemmed from lower volumes and lower prices in the US, where the market for male-oriented games remains intense, with titles such as Call of Duty, a Second World War drama, or Prince of Persia competing for attention. Okay, so, according to this, the reason why they were going to make her more female-friendly is to appeal to the male-oriented part of the industry?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's basically all this article has to say, apart from once again comparing her to Batman. Well, that's it, friends. We found the source. We now know that all that hype, all that waffling on we've been hearing for the last decade about how reboot Lara Croft was created in the name of feminism came from 2 little words written by someone who worked for some random newspaper 4 years before the reboot came out. And as for what actually came out of the mouths of the people involved, well, yeah. Okay, so to recap, Crystal Dynamics and Square Enix did not promise us feminism. They insulted classic Lara for being a woman, they jerked off in front of everyone about how their version is younger and weaker and innocent and vulnerable, and they bragged about making her a victim of sexual assault. As for her personality, they made her demure but also over-emotional, modestly dressed, which as we know was a big sticking point, and almost all of her motivation comes from clinging to first her father, and then Roth, and then Jonah. If that's the kind of feminism they wanted to go for, why did they stop there? Why didn't they keep her arranged marriage from the classic era, but have her accepted at the end? They could have ended the reboot trilogy with Lara barefoot and pregnant, as a woman should be. That's feminism, right? No? That's what I thought.